Elliot had always known diplomacy was a delicate dance, but nothing prepared him for this. The moment his foot hit the marbled floor of the Lenari Palace, his confidence seemed to vanish. The air was thick with the kind of ancient power that made him question whether he'd mistakenly wandered into a royal tomb. But no, it was the throne room of Queen Zalvara, an alien ruler renowned for her icy demeanor and strict cultural rules. The no-touch policy was clear. That was the first thing the royal advisors had warned him about. Touch the queen, and well, there were consequences. But what did that really mean? In retrospect, Elliot should have taken those warnings more seriously, especially when he'd caught a glimpse of Zalvara for the first time. She was as majestic as she was terrifying, with her skin gleaming in hues of silver and violet, her stature towering over him like she could crush him with a single glance. Her eyes were cold, sharply intelligent but unreadable. And she had the presence of someone who could rule the stars with a mere flick of a finger. The last thing he expected was to be in her presence now, let alone screw things up immediately. It started innocently enough. Elliot wasn't the most graceful diplomat. He never had been. He fumbled with his translator device, and in the middle of his attempt to read the formal greeting he'd memorized, he tripped. Right into the queen. The world slowed for a moment as he collided with her. Her skin shimmered where he'd brushed against her arm, and her eyes snapped wide, alarm flashing across her regal face. Elliot froze, his hand still hovering over her, as if he could somehow unscrew this entire situation by pulling back. But it was too late. The damage was done. "Oh no," he stammered. I wasn't." Her gaze turned icy. "You've violated my sacred boundary, human. Prepare to face the consequences." Elliot's throat went dry. He'd read all the diplomatic manuals. He'd studied Lenari culture. The touch thing was serious, an automatic punishment, they said. But what did that entail? Exile? Death? Being banished to live as a servant in a distant galaxy? He opened his mouth, but nothing coherent came out. "I swear it wasn't intentional. Just a slip. I didn't." The queen held up her hand, her voice as sharp as the tone of a galactic weapon. "Silence. I will deal with this violation myself. You will learn what happens when you touch a Lenari queen." Her advisors stared at him as though he were a child who'd stolen the royal jewels. But Elliot wasn't worried about the advisors. He was worried about her. The queen turned and gestured for him to follow. Her robes trailed behind her like a storm cloud as she moved with purpose. Elliot could do nothing but follow, still flustered, his mind racing. What kind of consequences were they talking about? He didn't know if he wanted to find out. As they entered a private chamber, the queen waved a hand over the air, and a holographic display appeared, detailing various rules of Lenari conduct. They were complex, ancient, and oddly specific. One of them stood out. Violations of physical contact invoke the binding ritual, a ritual leading to mutual telepathic bonding, making the two forever entwined. His heart skipped a beat. Telepathic bonding? Wasn't that reserved for lovers or revered leaders? "Wait, you can't mean," he began, but she cut him off. "This is the punishment for touching me. You will now be linked to me, body and mind. Forever." "No. No, wait, this is insane." Elliot's voice was more panic than protest. "I didn't mean to. I don't even know what that means." He had to resist the urge to run. But he could feel it already, that weird, crawling sensation in the back of his mind, the beginning of something he didn't want to experience. The queen's face softened ever so slightly. A hint of vulnerability? For a moment, Elliot almost felt sorry for her, trapped in whatever this cursed ritual was. But before he could dwell on that, something strange happened. A soft hum vibrated through his body, and suddenly, his thoughts were not his own. He heard her. Her voice. In his head. "This is not supposed to happen," she murmured internally, though her lips never moved. His mind went blank. He could hear her as clearly as his own voice. It was as if they shared the same consciousness. What the hell is this? Asterisk, he thought, and instantly she responded. Asterisk. You violated the sacred boundary. Now we are linked. Your thoughts, my thoughts, forever. Asterisk. His head spun. This is wrong. You're telling me we can't just shut it off. I didn't sign up for this. Zalvara's mental laugh was dark, almost amused. Asterisk. You think you have any choice now, human? This is your consequence. Asterisk, she continued, her thoughts flooding his mind. Asterisk. And now you will understand Lanari ways, whether you like it or not. Asterisk. Elliot groaned. What in the galaxy had he gotten himself into? But it didn't stop there. His body tensed as he felt the Queen's emotions, as if they were his own. Her anger was sharp, but underneath it, there was something softer, vulnerability, maybe even amusement. He couldn't help it. His lips quirked into a half-smile. So, how long does this last? She glared at him, but through their bond, he could sense a strange flicker of discomfort. Was she blushing? The Queen of the Lanari Empire? Blushing? The idea was almost comical. That is none of your concern. She shot back, but her mental tone softened in a way he couldn't quite ignore. As they stood there, sharing thoughts in silence, Elliot couldn't shake the feeling that this might not be the worst thing to ever happen to him. Sure, it was bizarre, invasive, and downright embarrassing, but something about it felt oddly intimate. There was no denying that the connection, however forced, was beginning to create some form of bond. Whether they liked it or not, their lives were now inexplicably intertwined. And if he was being honest with himself, it was a little thrilling. So, Your Majesty, Elliot ventured, his words laced with a nervous laugh. How are we supposed to deal with this? Her mental voice sounded unamused, but beneath the frustration was an unmistakable curiosity. Asterisk. I'm not sure, human. But you'll find out soon enough. Asterisk. And that, Elliot realized, was a bit more terrifying than anything else in the galaxy. Elliot's mind raced as he processed the absurdity of the situation. His thoughts were no longer his own. Every passing second, he could feel Queen Zalvara's mental presence right there, like an invasive whisper in his head. At first, it was a low hum of irritation, like a buzzing mosquito that wouldn't go away, but then it began to evolve, more intense, more personal. He could sense her every shift in mood. He could feel her growing discomfort with the bond they now shared. Her voice echoed in his thoughts. Asterisk. I don't understand why you humans are so awkward. Asterisk, she said, an edge of confusion in her tone. Elliot tried to ignore the mental intrusion, but it was like trying to block out a ringing phone. Every time he focused on something else, her voice, no, her thoughts, interrupted. He winced as she added, asterisk. And why do you keep thinking about food? Asterisk. He froze. Crap. He had been thinking about nachos. Look, Your Majesty, I didn't ask for any of this. Elliot muttered aloud, trying to keep his voice steady, but his frustration was creeping in. Asterisk. This whole telepathic bond thing? Totally not my idea. Asterisk. The Queen's mental presence pulsed, almost like she was trying to resist laughing. Asterisk. Your thoughts are chaotic. I can hear everything. And you're obsessed with food. Humans are so simple. Asterisk. I know I'm not. Wait, I'm not obsessed with food. Elliot shot back mentally, his face burning. It's just that Earth food is, well, it's comforting. Comforting, she repeated with a hint of mockery. Asterisk. You mean greasy and unhealthy? Asterisk. Elliot let out an exasperated sigh, pinching the bridge of his nose. Look, Your Majesty, maybe we can just disconnect? Can we just undo this whole thing? I'm sure there's some kind of ritual or, I don't know, a button I can press. Zalvara's response was an overwhelming mental wave of amusement. Asterisk. You think you can undo it? Asterisk, she almost sounded fondly exasperated. Asterisk. It's already done, human. You have touched me. And now we are bound. Whether you like it or not. Asterisk. I didn't, touch you. It was an accident. I tripped. Elliot's protest was as weak as it was futile. Zalvara's mental laughter grew louder, echoing in his mind like a deep rumble of thunder. And yet it was enough. Her thoughts carried the hint of something else, a strange fascination. Perhaps it's destiny, then. His eyes widened at the thought. Wait, destiny? What do you mean by that? She didn't answer immediately. For a long moment, there was only silence in his mind. Then, finally, her voice returned, laced with something he couldn't quite place. Nothing. Forget I said anything. Elliot furrowed his brow, unsure what to make of that. Forget what? This is seriously weird, Your Majesty. I am not Your Majesty in this moment, human. I am just Zalvara. And this bond has changed things. The last words were heavy, charged with something unexpected. Uncertainty? Curiosity? He couldn't tell. His thoughts were spinning now, the weight of the situation settling in. This wasn't just some alien punishment. No, this felt like something far more complicated. Was she enjoying this? He cleared his throat, trying to steady himself. Look, I'm not exactly prepared for whatever this is. I didn't mean to touch you, I didn't ask for this bond, and I'm really not prepared to deal with whatever this emotional connection is. She responded with coldness. There is nothing emotional about this. It's a cultural matter. Her thoughts were firm now, but he could still sense that underlying confusion beneath the surface. Cultural? Elliot echoed. So, it's not a punishment then? Just an accident? Zalvara's mental presence tightened with annoyance. It was never supposed to happen this way. Humans are impulsive. Your touch, it created this. Her words were clipped, as though she were struggling with the concept herself. Elliot tried to wrap his head around it, but all he could think of was the humor in this chaos. He had read about alien cultures, some had intricate, delicate rituals. But this? He never could have predicted a telepathic bond from brushing against someone's arm. His thoughts drifted back to her earlier comment about him being obsessed with food. I'll tell you one thing, he muttered. This bond thing? It's gonna drive me nuts. And if I have to listen to you mentally criticize my food habits, I'll. Zalvara cut him off. You can hear my thoughts just as clearly as I hear yours, human. You're not the only one suffering. He froze. She could hear his thoughts too. His face turned red as he realized just how much his mind wandered. He could feel her mocking amusement at the most trivial of things. He hadn't even realized she could sense his thoughts about his old Earth habits, like his love for nachos and his obsession with late-night snacks. Perhaps you would be better off learning how to control yourself. Zalvara's mental voice softened, and for a split second, it didn't sound entirely condescending. It almost sounded like advice? Elliot bit back a laugh, realizing how ridiculous this whole situation had become. Control myself? You're the one invading my thoughts. I don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing right now. Zalvara's presence was suddenly more vivid, her emotions leaking into him. Then you must learn. This bond cannot be ignored. If you must remain linked with me, you will learn Lanari ways. He grimaced, unsure of what that even meant. What does that even mean? And why do you keep bringing up ways like that? He nearly rolled his eyes, but the mental link kept his thoughts in check. Zalvara paused, and Elliot could feel her uncertainty growing, as if she were weighing something. Then her thoughts were direct, biting. Because human, it is unavoidable. The more he interacted with her through this connection, the more he realized she wasn't entirely the cold ruler she appeared to be. Underneath the facade of regal composure, he sensed vulnerability, confusion, and even a trace of loneliness. Look, we need to fix this, he said firmly, as much for himself as for her. We can't go on like this. I can't hear your thoughts all the time, and you can't hear mine. It's too much. Zalvara's thoughts brushed against his, subtle but powerful. Asterisk. You will have to endure it, human. It's the only way. Asterisk. Elliot's mind was reeling, struggling to understand just how deep this connection had gone, how irrevocable it was. The bond wasn't just about cultural rules, it was becoming something else, something more personal, more complicated. The Queen's thoughts were shifting again, this time laced with a strange tenderness. Asterisk. And perhaps, despite the chaos, you will learn something of value, human. Asterisk. Elliot sighed, feeling the weight of it all. Asterisk. I guess I'll have to learn how to live with this bond, and you. Asterisk. You are not the first human to say that, Zalvara replied, her tone unreadable but her mental presence sharp. Asterisk. But perhaps you will be the first to understand. Asterisk. Elliot didn't know whether to be comforted or terrified by that. He only knew one thing for sure, this was just the beginning. Elliot's world was upside down. He hadn't been able to sleep properly since the whole bonding incident. Every time he closed his eyes, his thoughts were invaded by Zalvara's sharp, ever-present voice. He couldn't escape her. Her voice would echo in his mind, dissecting his thoughts, questioning his habits, and offering unsolicited opinions on everything, from his eating habits to his occasional daydreams about Earth. It was as though she was constantly there, a mental shadow he couldn't shake off. He sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the ceiling, and tried to focus on something, anything, else. But the connection remained, a buzz in the back of his mind. He'd been told this would be a consequence, but no one had prepared him for how invasive it would be. He couldn't stop hearing her, couldn't stop feeling the brush of her emotions against his own. She wasn't just in his head, she was inside his soul, constantly pulling at his thoughts and feelings. At one point, he decided to try to get some peace. He thought about distracting himself, maybe focusing on some mundane task, like reading through reports or trying to catch up on the latest galactic news. Anything to take his mind off this whole bizarre situation. Asterisk. You are ignoring me again. Asterisk. It was no use. Zalvara's presence flared up in his mind, her voice as insistent as ever. He let out a groan, leaning back on the bed, burying his face in his hands. I'm not ignoring you, Zalvara. I'm just trying to survive this, he muttered aloud, even though he knew she could hear him. Survival is a human trait, she responded. Asterisk. But this is beyond your understanding. Asterisk. Oh, really? Elliot scoffed. You know, you didn't exactly prepare me for this. No one did. Accidental touching doesn't come with a disclaimer about mental invasions, Zalvara. I thought I was here for diplomacy, not to become your personal therapist. Her thoughts flickered, almost defensively. Asterisk. It is not my fault you are so distracting. Asterisk. The comment hit him harder than expected, and he couldn't help but laugh, albeit bitterly. So now I'm the problem, huh? He stood up, pacing back and forth. How am I distracting? Is it because I'm thinking about nachos again? Or because I don't understand how you're constantly in my head, telling me what I'm doing wrong? Zalvara didn't respond immediately. The silence felt heavy, almost like she was considering what he said. The flicker of amusement from her earlier presence was gone, replaced with something much quieter. Asterisk. I do not understand you, human. Asterisk. This time, he didn't have a comeback. He let the silence stretch between them, allowing the weight of her words to sink in. It was strange to hear her admit something so vulnerable. He had assumed she was just this stoic, perfect queen who ruled with an iron fist. But this was different. She was humanizing herself, in a way. I don't understand you either, he muttered. But we don't get to choose who we're stuck with, do we? We do not, she replied, her voice softer now. Asterisk. This bond is forced upon us, and yet I find it complicated. Asterisk. Tell me about it. He slumped onto the bed again, rubbing his temples. This is insane. I can't even have a private thought anymore. 1 minute, I'm thinking about what I'm going to eat for lunch, and the next, you're critiquing my food choices. A small, almost imperceptible laugh reverberated through their connection. Asterisk. You are amusing in your simplicity. Asterisk. Elliot snorted. Amusing. Right. But here's the thing. I don't even know what you want from me, Zalvara. 1 second you're criticizing me for thinking about food, the next you're telling me I'm distracting. Which is it? Am I a nuisance or am I entertaining to you? Her response wasn't immediate this time, and when it came, it felt more uncertain. Asterisk. You are both. And neither. Asterisk. Elliot stared at the ceiling, his frustration simmering, but he couldn't help but feel a little lighter. The back and forth between them, as strange as it was, had started to feel less like a punishment and more like a peculiar kind of interaction. It was like they were dancing around some unspoken truth, either one willing to address the awkward tension that simmered beneath the surface. You're saying I'm both, Elliot muttered. But I'm not sure if that's a compliment or an insult. Zalvara's voice softened, and for the first time since the bond began, there was something akin to sincerity in her words. Asterisk. It is either. It is simply truth. Asterisk. For a moment he sat there, stunned by her unexpected clarity. Truth. Right. He repeated slowly. So this is the truth of our situation. We're stuck with each other. I can't break this bond, you're constantly in my head, and we're both equally confused by this whole thing. Sounds like romance to me. There was a beat of silence before Zalvara's voice rippled through his mind again, this time tinged with amusement. Asterisk. Romance is not the purpose of this bond, human. If you think that, you are mistaken. Asterisk. I'm just saying, Elliot replied, grinning to himself. It's got all the elements, right? A little forced connection, some awkward tension, maybe some inevitable feelings. I mean, I wouldn't put it past the universe to throw us into this kind of cosmic joke. Zalvara's thoughts hummed in his mind, an expression of pure exasperation. Asterisk. Feelings. Asterisk, she trailed off, as if the concept was foreign to her. Asterisk. You humans are obsessed with feelings. Asterisk. And yet you're the one who keeps probing mine. He couldn't help but tease. Look, if you don't want this to turn into some weird love story, then maybe, just maybe, you could tone down the mind reading for a second? Zalvara paused, her presence still and almost reflective. For once, her thoughts were not wrapped in judgment or condescension, but instead in something else, a strange, hesitant curiosity. Asterisk. Perhaps, you are right. Perhaps I should allow you more space. But do not mistake this for affection, human. It is merely practicality. Asterisk. Elliot let out a low chuckle. Practicality. Right. We can call it that. He leaned back, letting himself relax for the first time in hours. But you know, Zalvara, if you ever do want to talk about feelings, my mind is wide open. He smirked to himself, but deep down, he knew the conversation wasn't over. In fact, it had only just begun. Elliot sat in his quarters, staring blankly at the wall. His life had become a bizarre series of thoughts, half-digested ideas, and awkward mental conversations with Zalvara. If this was the price of diplomacy, he wasn't sure it was worth it. He could feel the alien queen's presence linger in the back of his mind, her emotions and thoughts creeping into his own. It wasn't even subtle anymore. The boundaries were gone. Her voice flickered into his consciousness again. Asterisk. I have been thinking about your species. Asterisk. He sighed, rubbing his forehead. Oh no, here we go again. What now, Zalvara? Asterisk. Your species is so unpredictable. You think of food, then of love, then of conflict. There is no logic, no clarity. Asterisk. Her thoughts were slightly frustrated, but there was also something that seemed almost fascinated. Elliot raised an eyebrow. We're human. We don't do logic all the time. If we did, we'd probably never get anything done. Ever heard of a spontaneous decision? Asterisk. Spontaneity. A curious concept. You humans make choices without calculation, without understanding the consequences. Asterisk. He felt an unexpected pang of annoyance. Well, maybe we just like to live in the moment. You've got everything figured out, don't you? With your perfect alien society and no room for mistakes. Salvara's thoughts shifted, quieter now. Asterisk. Mistakes are not tolerated in my world. But perhaps that is why I find you intriguing. Asterisk. His mind almost skipped a beat. Intriguing? After everything? He let out a breath, his voice steady. You find me intriguing? Wow. I don't even know if I should be flattered or worried. Asterisk. Perhaps both. Asterisk, she replied, the mental tone tinged with something he couldn't quite place. You are unpredictable. It is disturbing. But it is also. She hesitated. Asterisk. Interesting. Asterisk. Elliot chuckled. Disturbing and interesting. Those are great compliments, Your Majesty. Asterisk. Do not mock me, human. Asterisk. Her thoughts were sharp, a flicker of irritation threading through. Asterisk. I am being sincere. Asterisk. He smiled despite himself, feeling a small glimmer of hope that, maybe, just maybe, there was more to this connection than just an accidental touch and a forced bond. Fine. You're sincere. Now let me ask you something. If I'm so unpredictable and interesting, why haven't you tried to get rid of me yet? Asterisk. I cannot undo what has been done. Asterisk. Her words were firm, but there was an undercurrent of something. A deeper hesitation. Asterisk. There is no easy way out. Asterisk. He felt a strange knot form in his chest. No easy way out? He repeated. Are you telling me you're stuck with me too? Asterisk. I am not stuck. Asterisk, she corrected quickly, but her thoughts gave away her discomfort. Asterisk. I am adapting. Just as you are. Asterisk. Elliot's heart skipped. This was more than he expected. It wasn't just that she was acknowledging the connection, she was processing it, too. And the more she processed it, the more he realized they were both equally lost in this strange, unpredictable dynamic. Adapting, he said quietly. I guess we are, aren't we? For a moment, there was nothing but the faint hum of silence between them. Then Salvara spoke again, but this time her thoughts were quieter, almost hesitant. Asterisk. I have read about your species' concept of bonding. The idea that two beings can be connected, that even the most unlikely pairing can become something stronger. Asterisk. Elliot stiffened. Wait, you've read about that? Bonding? And stronger? What exactly are you getting at? It is just an observation, she replied, but there was something guarded in her tone. Asterisk. It is a concept that is foreign to my people. And yet, there is a certain logic to it, is there not? If two beings are forced together, if they experience things together, perhaps they learn from one another. Asterisk. He ran a hand through his hair, his thoughts scattering. Was she actually suggesting something more? Something beyond just this weird, mental connection? You're not implying that this bond could, I don't know, make us close? He asked, his voice laced with disbelief. Asterisk. Close? Asterisk. The words seemed to hang in the air for a moment. Asterisk. Not in the way you think. But I do believe we could learn from each other. Asterisk. Elliot had to bite back a laugh. Learn from each other? Are we really going to get all philosophical now? Because last time I checked, I'm not exactly a philosopher. Her mental presence was more playful this time, though still cautious. Asterisk. You are simpler than I expected, human. Yet there's something about your simplicity that makes it easier to connect with you. Asterisk. He blinked in surprise. So now I'm easy to connect with? What's next? I'm sure your alien mind is just buzzing with excitement over our connection. Asterisk. Buzzing? Asterisk. She sounded genuinely confused. Asterisk. That is not how I would describe it. Asterisk. Elliot grinned. You should hear yourself. You're starting to sound like you're getting fond of me. There was a long pause. Asterisk. Fond? Asterisk. Her tone softened, almost thoughtful. Asterisk. I do not feel fondness in the way your species does. I do not understand it. Asterisk. Well, that's comforting, he replied, rolling his eyes. But it sounds like you're trying to, I don't know, justify something here. Like we're some kind of accidental pair. Zalvara's thoughts were suddenly sharp. Asterisk. You are not accidental, human. This bond is inevitable. It is not something that can be explained away with your simplistic human logic. Asterisk. Right. Elliot muttered, rubbing the back of his neck. It's inevitable. So what, we just ride it out until it makes sense. Asterisk. Perhaps. Asterisk. Her thoughts were calm again, but there was something deeper lurking behind her words. Asterisk. Perhaps it will make sense when you learn to embrace it. But that is up to you. Asterisk. His mind spun with the weight of her words. He wasn't sure what to make of all of this. The bond felt more real than it had before, more tangible, and that was unsettling. She wasn't just some distant alien queen anymore. She was someone he was now connected to, for better or worse. I guess that's all I can do, huh? He said, more to himself than to her. Embrace it. Zalvara's presence flared for a moment, her thoughts shifting. Asterisk. If you can learn to accept this bond, perhaps there is more for you to discover, human. Asterisk. There it was again, something deeper in her words. Something that didn't quite fit into the rigid structure she was used to. And just like that, Elliot felt a flicker of understanding. Maybe this wasn't just about the bond itself. Maybe it was about the change it was bringing. Change that neither of them had anticipated. Change that neither of them could escape. It wasn't love. It wasn't even understanding. But it was something. And for the first time in what felt like forever, Elliot thought maybe he could get used to this.